Assalamualaikum. My name is Dania and I am a student from College Professional Mara. So today we are going to conduct an interview about the English as a lingua franca of the world. So before we start, can you please introduce yourself first?
Alright, Waalaikumsalam. I am Muhammad Kafir Raika bin Muhammad Kamia. I'm currently a student from Dania Polytechnic, currently pursuing a diploma in aeronautical and aerospace technology.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm from Singapore. I'm from Singapore.
Okay, thank you for that. So moving to the first question, how did the English language start to spread in your country throughout the years?
I think, if I'm not wrong, based on the Singapore history, it started due to the fact that our late Prime Minister said to make English a standard language of Singapore, due to the fact that he foresees English being used internationally. So in a sense that from a relatively young age, or very exact from 30 or 40 years ago, it started to spread all over Singapore, the English as being our main language.
Okay, so thank you for that. Now, what are the functions of the English language in your country?
In terms of function, I would say it's more of usability. The fact that even though there are multiple different races, we don't have issues with our communication, as we have a standard language, or we standardize our languages used for communication. So in terms of trade, education, it's all relatively simple. The fact that we use English as our standard.
So how do you feel about the development of the English language in your country?
Depends, of course. For me, right, we have a thing called Singlish. So it's a form of slang, which every different countries have their own slang. Like Malaysia have quite a few, which I will not want to say right here, right now. One of them is awe, but that's beside the point. And for Singapore, it's like la, sila, like it adds a few characteristics of bit of flavor to the language, you want to put it like that. But if you're talking about the overall English language as a whole, right, the overall usage has, the quality of which we utilize the English language has diminished quite a bit over the years, due to the fact that the way we communicate is through maybe short forms or not with such clarity. So there may be some miscommunication if you're talking about the overall quality of our communication. But in terms of special development, maybe the slang, like the development of Singlish over the years.
I see. So do you think the English language should remain as the universal lingua franca?
That is a relatively hard question, due to the fact that if you're talking about English as itself, it's more simple compared to, for example, Mandarin or Arabic. But the amount of clarity in which the Arabic language or the Mandarin language can give is far, far superior. So in a sense that it's a main question of whether everyone are willing to conform to a new standard language, as I do not know how, but English is relatively accessible to everyone in the world currently. So if you were to ask me personally, I would prefer it to be Arabic due to how vast it is, to be honest. But realistically, English will stay for a long time. Unless there's a major superpower, maybe like China, then maybe it will change to Mandarin down the line. I'm really not sure that area.
I see. So moving to the fifth question, do you find that the way you pronounce certain English words will differ from the standard way of pronouncing English?
Okay, you need to understand English has certain standards. So there's like the British English, then there's the English from the Americans, and etc. So it's like the form of accents. because my case is my accent is slightly a mixture of Chinese and Malay. So waktu I cakap dalam bahasa Malay pun dengar macam kelakar. When I speak in English, it's also relatively funny. So maybe it's due to my upbringing, right? But overall, the way I speak or the way I talk, I would say is slightly different than what you say as standard English due to how I enunciate and my background overall. So how I speak compared to a British person will be very different due to our accent.
Okay, so do you think some English words are difficult to pronounce because of your mother tongue?
There are multiple difficult English words which I've forgotten long ago, but not really. For now, no. Because of the fact that the pronunciation is quite similar to Malay, due to the fact that they are both phonetic languages, in the sense that it's more on the sound. It's not really a tonal language like Chinese or Vietnamese. So not really. I don't think so.
So in what way does your first language change the way you pronounce English?
My first language, funnily enough, is Malay. I mean, it's English, my bad, it's English. So how it affects my Malay is my overall, the way I speak Malay is very, compared to a normal Malaysian, it's quite different in the sense of I sound very Chinese, is what people would say.
So how does your intonation appears when speaking English compared to your mother tongue?
That I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But thinking about like the way I speak, there's a lot of stutter whenever I speak in Malay due to that uncertainty of the Malay language. But if you're talking about the intonation, I'm really not sure. You want me to show you an example of me speaking both?
Okay. So when you speak English, do you prefer utilizing a deeper tone which while speaking in your native tongue, meanwhile using a higher tone for English?
No, I think the overall tone is the same. The only difference is when it depends on who I'm speaking with. Like for example, if I'm speaking with my boss, then my proper enunciation, how I pace my speech and etc. will differ compared to when I'm talking to a friend where I can speak at a relatively relaxed pace, I can speak relatively fast, I don't really care. So it's not really the difference in intonation when it comes to the language, but who I'm talking to, I think. So yeah.
Okay, so do you find it difficult to understand the standard way people pronounce English, such as English from people who are born in English-speaking countries?
Okay, this one, I need you to understand. If you're talking about purely standard English, by all means, it's relatively easy to understand. But if you're talking about English spoken by the Irish or like the Aussies, I mean the Australia, like the further north, the further up of what's that, Australia, then yeah, I would see myself having trouble. It's similar to Malay. How from KL, you have slight troubles understanding those from Terengganu or Kelantan. Yeah, so it's like something similar to that. Even though it's the same language, there's a bit of different slangs and a lot of different things. How they pronounce also is quite different. So overall standard, I'm I'm good. But when it comes to certain countries where they don't really go so close to the standard but quite off in terms of pronunciation, I'll have a lot of issues.
So why do you think this happens?
Overall culture of the country, do you think that for my case, the what's the development of Singlish, Singaporean English, that British also they have their own slang, which I shouldn't say lah. Then there is the Australians, the Aussies, aka the Aussies lah, and a lot more. So it's more of the influence of culture.
So I believe that's all the question I have for you today. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Okay, I hope my answers help a bit. I hope they helped a bit.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Marissa Safia. Just call me Marissa. So I will be interviewing you about the varieties of English studies. So can you please introduce your name?
I'm Safia Nadeem, you can call me Safia, and I'm from India. I'm here to get interviewed.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so let's proceed with the interview questions. So the first question is, how did the English language start to spread in your country throughout the years?
English language primarily spread in India through British colonization. So that was back in the year 1750s or something around that. And then it went on till 1947. So we were under the British rule for almost 400 years. So that was what exposed Indians to English first. And it was introduced as a medium for education, higher education. But then slowly it became synonymous with the elite class. So most of the elite class people, they used English as a medium of conversation. And that kind of showed their status. And even after India got their independence, English was still continued to be used as medium for government communication and higher education, etc.
Wow, that's a very interesting story. I just knew that. Thank you so much for your insight. Moving on to the next question. What are the functions of the English language in your country? Basically now.
Functions of English language.
Yeah.
English language, it is often used here as a medium of government communication and higher education, journalism, law, and business. It also plays an important role in research and education because most of the study materials and sources are in English language. So it is an important part of higher education.
I see.
Yeah. And it is also sometimes used in the entertainment industry, but that is mostly just in the urban areas, not in the rural areas as of now.
Understandable, yeah. Okay, thank you. Next question. How do you feel about the development of the English language in India right now?
The development of English language in India, it is both empowering and it is a little complex, I'd say.
Okay.
It is empowering because it helps us to interact with people around the world, international connectivity, and it gives us an access to knowledge. But it also creates a division between English-speaking people and non-English-speaking people. Because English-speaking people, they think that they are an elite group of people.
I see.
So the class disparity between English-speaking and non-speaking people. And while it also opens doors to many global opportunities, I think somewhere along the way, the regional and cultural language and identity is being lost.
I see.
So it has both a beneficial aspect to it, but the culture and the status disparity between them is obvious.
Oh my god, thank you so much. That's very... Yeah, I learn new things about your country from that. Okay, next question. Do you find that the way you pronounce certain English words could differ from the standard way of pronouncing in English? Can you give us some examples also?
Yeah, the way we pronounce words in English, we call it Indian English actually. So we have British English, Indian English, and American English. So it is sometimes different because we have a prominent influence of our native languages and our mother tongues, right? So sometimes the pronunciation of different words are kind of difficult for us. And if I had to give some examples, it would be, for example, you have the word car. We pronounce all the alphabets in it properly, right? We Indians, we pronounce it as car with stress on the R. So we have kind of ending R at the end. It's car. Whereas in the American and British English, it is just car.
Yeah.
So car. It's not car. So we tend to roll our R's a lot because as we have the Hindi and Telugu influence a lot. So they have prominent R's in our native language. So that is different in English.
Well,
So do that also.
yeah, I'm actually quite familiar with Indian English because in Malaysia we live in multicultural environment. Yeah, there's a lot of Indian people in Malaysia. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, next question. Do you think some English words are difficult to pronounce because of your mother tongue? Could you provide us some examples of the words? Oh,
Yeah, just like you said, the R's are different in our native language. So that affects, and that even if we try to speak it, pronounce it properly, it subconsciously comes into our English language as well. So that is one thing. And then I also think that apart from the R's, we have a very monotonous way of speaking. So all the syllables in a word, they are given equal importance in our native language. But the syllables, they are stressed in different manners. Each one has a different way you pronounce it. So the syllables are given different kind of stress. So because of that, the pronunciation differs in our English. And also the silent letters which you have, it is also kind of difficult to comprehend it. So we end up vocalizing the silent letters also sometimes. For example, it's psychology, but some people also call it as psychology.
okay, yeah.
It's psychology because that's how it's spelled,
Yeah.
written. So, yeah.
I see. Okay, moving on to the next question. In what way does your first language change the way you pronounce English?
This is done. This is over, I think, no?
Yeah, I think it's a bit redundant, but can you just explain a bit about it?
Yeah, like I said, how my native language affects my English pronunciation, right? We have a monotonous way of pronouncing, but in English you have different syllables and each of it has different stress. So we pronounce everything in a single manner. It is psychology. So you stress on ecology kind of thing, no? But in our Indian English, we call it as psychology. It is a straight line. It is not psychology.
Okay.
So,
Oh, thank you so much. Next question. How does your intonation appear when speaking English compared to your mother tongue? Do you notice any differences, such as perhaps utilizing a deeper tone while speaking in your native language, in your native tongue? Meanwhile, or maybe you use a higher tone when speaking in English, like the pitch.
yeah. A higher tone or something like that. We also our tone, the way we speak, while asking a question, it is just a normal sentence, and then we end it with a questioning tone. So, like, you're going to do this now. That now is that question. So that automatically comes into our English language. We don't go, are you going to do this? We go, oh, you're doing this now.
Oh.
So it's like that. Questions are basically a proper sentence with a full stop at the end, but just the last word leaning towards the questioning tone. So those rising and falling tones are often used to convey meanings, and we also emphasize on certain words to tell what we mean, to express what we mean. And like the syllables also, it is more timed and rhythm syllables in our native language. So the way we speak, it can sometimes sound monotonous to native speakers.
I see. Yeah, that's new. I just knew that. Okay. And yeah, Our last question is, do you find it difficult to understand the standard way people pronounce English, such as English from people who are born in English-speaking countries? So, if you feel that way, why do you think it's happened?
I think it can be challenging in the beginning when you are learning the language and you're not used to speaking to native speakers,
Yeah.
because of course it is their native language and they usually speak fast.
Yeah.
Okay? They have a faster speech, and while compared to when we are learning, we need to listen to each and every word and comprehend it to understand the meaning.
Yeah.
So when we are learning the language, I think when the native speaker is talking in its normal tone and speed, we would consider that to be a very fast speech, I think. And then they also have regional accents, right?
Yeah.
So that could kind of be harder to comprehend, I'd say, because we learn a specific kind of dialect, but
Yeah.
because they have different dialects and accents, it can be hard to comprehend. Also, if you just go there out of nowhere, they'll use some slang words,
Yeah.
which will be very hard for us to comprehend and understand what it means. So I think with proper exposure to native speakers and their accents, I think it'll get easier to understand and practice and comprehend what they say.
I see. Alright. And with that, I think we already come to the end of our interview session. Thank you so much, Safia Nadim.
You're welcome.
I'm so delighted to have you here.
Okay, it is now recording. Hi, thank you so much for joining me for today's interview session. My name is Indiana Adritan, and I am a Diploma in English Communication student at College Professional Mara Sri Iskandar. And this interview will be for my assignment for varieties of the English language subject, where we will be uncovering all of the topics for English as the lingua franca of the world. Okay. Before we get started with the questions, would you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, my name is Nasser. I am from Yemen, but I was born and based in Saudi Arabia. Currently, I'm studying mechanical engineering in Malaysia. Now I am going into my last and fourth year. Right now, I am in Shah Alam doing my internship, but I'm going back to Berlin soon to continue my last year.
All right, that's interesting. So we will start with the first question. How did the English language start to spread in your country throughout the years?
Okay, so if I'm talking about my country specifically, I don't think colonization was the reason for that, because we were not really colonized by the British. But I would say maybe because of the globalization, because of the improvement in the international business, in the international relations between countries, especially that the most dominant language in the world is English language.
Right.
So I would say that was the main reason for the spread of English language in my country.
I see. Thank you for your answer. Next question. What are the functions of the English language in your country?
Okay, the English language functions, I would say, have really improved during the last year. The main function now is business. The government still function in Arabic language. English is not used in any government sector, only in business. Education is also still in Arabic language, except for the international schools or English based schools. So it doesn't have that impact on the education or government offices, but rather on businesses. Because currently now, like I live in Saudi Arabia, like there have been a lot of outside companies from Europe, from USA, from other countries coming to open headquarters or open new branches in Saudi Arabia. So that's why it has become really important to communicate with them in English. And that was a good function of English in my country, which is business.
I see. Okay, thank you for your answer. The next one is, how do you feel about the development of the English language in your country?
I would say it's like two-sided sword. It's like I'm happy and not happy at the same time. Happy because the people can speak in English. That's good. People, the desire to learn more languages have become good.
Mhm.
But I don't want people to forget their native tongue, which is Arabic language, because for us as Muslims, Arabic language is a very important thing. Luckily, people still use Arabic as their mother tongue language, but maybe in the future, some families will raise their kids to speak English as the first tongue, which I think is quite not good because Arabic is very hard language to learn. But when you are like born as with it as your native language, it will add so much advantage. So yeah, that's one thing. And the good thing, as I previously mentioned, is people have started to have the desire to learn more, to learn other languages, and that have really improved maybe the economy because we can communicate with the outside world better. We can do business with the outside world, not only countries' home mother tongue is Arabic.
That is quite true. I could relate since I come from a country that speaks English as a second
Yeah.
language. So that is understandable. And the next question would be, do you think that the English language should remain as the world's lingua franca?
Mm, I would say maybe yes. Although when we look, like there are not really many English-based, like it's not like that many English native speaking countries, but it's the impact, like it's how separated by colonization, the strength of the English speaking countries, and all of those extra reasons. But if I would say it should be or not, I would say maybe it should be because it is easy to learn. Like if it was like Arabic or Chinese, then it's going to be a bit hard. Russia is far and it's not that really separated in the whole world. So maybe yeah, English is a good choice.
All right, next one is, do you find that the way you pronounce certain English words could differ from the standard way of pronouncing in English? And if so, could you give us some examples?
I would say yes. Maybe not at this stage, but yeah, at this stage, I will still do it a bit. Firstly, in Arabic, we don't have P and D. We cannot differentiate between those two. Like a lot of Arabic people cannot differentiate. We will just say like Pok, Bibsi, like any word with pa. We don't say P. We don't really pronounce it very well. And some of us have difficulty differentiate between V and F, like vanish, finish. Like no, some of us finish. They don't really pronounce it so well. So yeah, I think our tongue is a bit not really tolerant of how the English tongue should be. Like.
I see. That's quite interesting. Okay. The next one is, do you think some English words are difficult to pronounce because of your mother tongue? And could you provide us some examples of the words?
So far, not really, except if it is the long one. Like the word I have previously mentioned, colonization. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but yeah. But one word that I remember for sure is the word roll up, the roll up that's for measurement.
Um,
Until now, I cannot pronounce it so well, like because it was during my school, so I had really difficulty to pronounce it, like roll up, roll up, roll. Like
that's
we don't have that flexibility. Like I would say, like we do have flexibility in Arabic, but in a more variant way of English language.
I see.
So yeah.
All right. Next question is, in what ways does your first language change the way you pronounce English?
Mm, I would say our tongue is a bit thick, like when we pronounce the word, and heavy. Thus, our pronunciation for English would be heavy as well. Like I think it's really common in the world to know where the person comes from, even without seeing them, by hearing them speak in English. Like I can identify which whether it is Asian accent, Indian accent, Arabic accent. So each accent has its own way. Each mother tongue have its own impact on how we pronounce English language. So I think, yeah, the pronunciation for Arabic, it would be like the words would be a bit thicker and heavier on the tongue.
All right. Okay. Next question is, how does your intonation appear when speaking English compared to when you are speaking in your mother tongue? So, do you notice any differences? For example, perhaps you utilize a deeper tone when you're speaking
Mm.
in your native tongue, meanwhile registering a higher tone when you speak in English.
For me, maybe sometimes I will feel like I speak a bit lighter in English language and I try to make the word longer. Like
Mm,
I don't say colonization, like if it's that fast. I would say colonization, even though I'm not sure if it is pronounced correctly or not. But I just make it longer in case the other, because usually Arabic to Arabic can be speaking in Arabic, but Arabic to Asian to like European, Russian, I will be speaking in English. So some of us, even though both sides can speak in English, it's still a bit hard to understand their accent. So that's why I try to make the words a bit longer when I pronounce them, so the other person can have a chance to catch the word.
I see. So, would you say that you register a higher tone when you speak English?
Yes, higher tone and lower. When I speak in my native language, I will speak fast. But when I speak in
Mm,
English, I will not really speak as fast as I speak in Arabic. So at least people can understand what I say. I hope in Arabic they do, but yeah, in English, I'm not quite sure.
I see. But I can understand you very well.
Oh, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's such a
I hope
compliment.
you can understand me too, since
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your English
it's my
is
second
quite
language.
perfect. It's really perfect.
Thank you so much. All right, we've come to the last question now,
Okay.
and it is: do you find it difficult to understand the standard way that people pronounce English, such as maybe perhaps the English language that comes from a person who
Mhm.
speaks it as a first language? Why do you think
Mhm.
this happens?
Um, Firstly, like there are three main accents for English language, which is American, British, and Australian, right? So for me, the most difficult one is the Australian one. The sometimes even when they speak, I cannot catch some word. Secondly, which is the second hard, is the UK British people, and the easiest one is the American people. So even though they all speak the same language, but the accent can make it a bit hard. But I think American accents is easy for all of us because of media and TV. Because
Yeah.
most of the movies, even though they are British movies, but most of the movies are American movies. So even sometimes, like the water, when they say water, even if they don't pronounce water or they don't pronounce in it or something, like all of those, all of those shortcuts, even though they don't pronounce it fully and we don't know them, but as we watch more and more and more, we like our ears, okay, catch their words fast. Even though they don't say what's up properly, but I still can understand them because of the movies, TV, and so
Yeah,
on. So yeah,
that's true. All right, we've come to the end of our interview session. Thank you so much for your brilliant insight, and this will be very, very helpful for my assignment. And it was really nice to meet you, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Diana. All the best. All the
Thank
best.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Fauzana, and I'm a student from KPM Sri Iskandar. Thank you for joining this interview for my assignment regarding English as the lingua franca. So, before we begin, would you introduce yourself first?
Okay, thank you, Zanaya. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Rifki Mawani. You can call me Rifki. I live in Banjarmasin, one of the cities in Indonesia. I work as a nurse in one of the health facilities in my city.
Alright.
Okay.
let's start with the first question. How
Hmm.
did the English language start to spread in your country throughout the years?
Okay, I don't know how it started, but what I know is that after Indonesian independence, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1967, maybe the government include English as one of the subject for school children. Maybe this is the start of English come to Indonesia.
So, what are the functions of the English language in your country?
Maybe in Indonesia, English is only a subject for students. But for some case, such as applying for a job, there are several companies that set criteria for applicants who can speak English.
So, how do you feel about the development of the English language in your country?
Hmm. The development is quite good. Many young people use English as an additional language to interact. And English language, music, and film are quite easy to access. Maybe this will speed up their way of improving their English.
So, do you think the English language should remain as the universal lingua franca?
Lingua franca. Yes, because English is a language that I'm sorry. Because English is a language that is used as an international language. So the daily language or lingua franca must follow English, I think.
Do you find that the way you pronounce certain English words could differ from the standard way of pronouncing in English? Can you give us some examples?
Maybe we are using general English learning standards, so I don't find any difference in the pronunciation of English.
Do you think some English words are difficult to pronounce because of your mother tongue? Could you provide us some examples of the words?
Uh, I I didn't find any difficult, but because I'm not very used to pronouncing English, I find it a bit difficult and to speak awkward to speak or pronounce English. Maybe I have difficulty in saying the difference between the words like she, and see. Uh, I understand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. It's so difficult for me, but I don't know other people.
Okay, in what ways does your first language change the way you pronounce English?
Can you repeat?
Uh, in what ways does your first language change the way you pronounce English?
Uh, Maybe the difficulty in mentioning grammar is because in Indonesia there are only two grammars, past, present, and future. While English has many grammars, I don't remember how many, but as far as I remember there are so many, so much.
Okay, how does your intonation appear when speaking English compared to your mother tongue? Do you notice any differences, such as perhaps utilizing a deeper tone while speaking in your native tongue? Meanwhile, you use a higher tone for English.
Maybe when I use Indonesian language, I'm more relaxed because I'm very used to using Indonesian. But when I speak English, the tone and intonation, I must as be louder so that my pronunciation can be heard clearly.
I see. Okay. I think this is the last question from me.
Okay.
Do you, no, no, this is the last question.
Mm.
Do you find it difficult to understand the standard way people pronounce English, such as English from people who are born in English speaking countries? Why do you think this happened?
Maybe people who use English as their standard language and are born to interact using English are indeed faster in speaking. It make it a bit difficult to understand what they are saying. Sometimes I'm confused about what they mean. I don't know why. Maybe because I rarely interact with them or my English skills are still very lacking. Maybe. Okay.
Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your time today. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day too, Jana. Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have my camera on or not?
Hello.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. How's the weather in Melbourne right now? It's okay?
It's actually pretty nice today. Yeah, it's sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
I look like a
Before
mess.
we start with the... Sorry?
I look like a mess.
It's okay. No, you did not.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
so before we start on the interview, can you
mm-hmm.
share about yourself, about what you do?
All right. Okay, so my name is Parawi, but you can just call me Chloe. I have a background in fashion and design. I earned my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Communication Design in Bangkok and recently completed my Master's in Fashion Entrepreneurship at RMIT in Australia. And now I'm just looking for a job in the fashion industry.
That's such a cool background, to be honest. Okay, may I know start to spread in your country throughout the years?
Mm-hmm. Wait 1 second. I feel like the you can hear me pretty clearly, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, shit. Hello? Oh my god. I'm not sure if my AirPods are connected. Okay. Okay, so first question.
How did English language start to spread in your country throughout?
Okay, so the spread of English in Thailand has grown gradually over time, which it's influenced by trade, diplomacy, and globalization. And while Thailand was never colonized, English started gaining importance during the 19th century when the royal family tried to engage with Western countries for modernization. And yeah, so it became more common due to the ties with Western nations, especially after World War II. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and also
I
like
see.
tourism, it's also like a big thing because Thailand is also like a big tourist attraction. Yeah, and English is also a core subject in schools as well. Yeah.
English has just like it has been in school for a long time, or is it added just recently, a couple of years back?
You mean like in school?
Yeah, was it introduced like recently, or has it been going on for many years?
I'm not sure about schools, but I feel like it's been going on long before I was born.
I see. So it
But
has
maybe
been many
not,
years.
yes, but maybe not like 100 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I see.
It's
Okay,
more of
so
like
in
a
your
generations kind of thing.
Okay, so in your opinion, what are the functions of the English language in your country?
In Thailand, the English language serves many different functions. First, it's used in education, where it's taught as a like a core subject in schools and universities. Secondly, English is used in business and mostly tourism, hospitality. And also, English is the main language for accessing global media like movies, books, TV shows, and of course the internet. And yeah, English provides like opportunities in terms of careers, advancement, and like companies usually want someone who can speak good English, and they get promoted, they get like higher level position, they get better paid.
How do you feel about the development of the English language in your country? Is it like there is like a flaw to the system as well?
So I think, okay, so I feel like there is a, oh, I forgot how to answer this one. Okay, so even though English is a core subject in schools, the development in Thailand is still even. Like there's a divide where a more privileged group, often those with like access to better education, they have better access to learning English. Like rich kids, they often get sent to international schools or even studying abroad. Yeah, so they become fluent. However, like the majority of people in Thailand, they don't speak English that well because English is something that they don't use daily unless like they work in industry like tourism or hospitality or something like that. And yeah, I think there's still a long way to go for like to make English more accessible for everyone in Thailand.
So make it more for region, right? Okay. Next, English language, the universal lingua franca.
Yes, I believe that English should remain the universal language because it makes communication easier, global communication. Because English is already spoken widely around the world, and it simplifies international interactions, and people from different countries can communicate more effectively using one common language. And I think that's it's also important to preserve and respect local languages and cultures, but having one global language is really useful to help bridge the gaps and to make people from different countries
to come together.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, do you find that the way you pronounce certain English words could differ from the standard way of pronouncing in English? Can you give us example maybe?
Yes, I think so. Like the way I pronounce some English words can differ from the standard pronunciation, probably because of the influence of my first language, Thai. Okay, like forward, like film. I can't think of anything else. Okay, so we're gonna go with a film, which I might not emphasize the I as strongly, which gives a slightly different sound, I think. Yeah, and I also think that with the pronunciation of English words, there are so many. I mean, not so many, but there are different. Even for English speaking people, like native speakers, they're Americans and they're like British, Australians, and they don't pronounce English words the same way, right? For example, like banana. Like they don't even pronounce it the same way. So like me as a Thai person, sometimes I pronounce the American way, sometimes I pronounce the British way, and like sometimes I make up my own way. Yeah, it's just like random.
Yeah.
As long as we can understand each other, then it should be fine.
True. Okay. Do you think some English words are difficult to pronounce because of your mother tongue?
Yes. As a Thai speaker, I sometimes find it difficult to pronounce words like I said, film. It's so hard for me. Like it's tricky because the combination of the I and M, like I don't know, it doesn't exist the same way in Thai, so it might come out differently. Yeah.
I see. May I know in what language the way you pronounce English?
I think okay, so I think that it's because the two languages have different sound systems and the rhythm and the stress patterns in Thai is different from in English, so I may place emphasis on different syllables or use a flatter intonation when speaking English. I think, yeah. So these are like subtle differences that can affect how I pronounce words or how my accent comes across. Sorry, it's so loud. Can you hear the thing? It's like construction outside.
Oh, it's okay. I think
Okay.
not much of it. The next is your intonation speaking English compared to your mother tongue. Do you notice differences, such as perhaps utilizing a deeper tone while speaking in your native tongue, meanwhile using a high tone for English, or maybe vice versa?
Like I said before, I don't notice much of a difference in my intonation, or maybe I'm just not aware because because I think I don't consciously switch to like a deeper or higher tone when switching between English and Thai, but maybe I do have maybe I do switch, but it's not consciously, like I'm not aware of it, so I feel like there's not much difference.
I see. Okay, and the last one, do you find it difficult to understand the standard way people pronounce English, such as English from people who are born in English-speaking countries? Your opinion about it? Maybe now you're in Melbourne, so when you first in English-speaking countries, how do you adapt first? So
now I don't feel it I don't find it difficult anymore because I'm quite used to the way people from English-speaking countries speak English and pronounce English words. So because I've been studying English for like 20 years, probably over 20 years, and yeah, and but if I have to think back to when I first went to an English-speaking country, the United States, when I was 16, it was quite difficult to understand them talking, even though I had learned English before that. But it's still like I had to get used to it. Like it took me a while to get used to actual people talking constantly in English. And yeah, but now not anymore. So yeah, that okay. And I also have been living in Australia for 2.5 years now, and I'm also used to the way Australian speak English as well. So yeah, but yeah, if someone has a really strong or like uncommon accent, then I do find it hard to understand. Like because I live in Melbourne, which is a big city, and their accent is pretty easy to understand. But if I go to the countryside and meet the Aussies in the countryside, they have a really strong Australian accent, and that's really hard to understand, especially when they use local slang that I'm not familiar with. That's gonna make everything harder to understand, because like sometimes even the accent is hard to understand, you can still guess from the context. But if they're using different words from your usual vocabulary, then it's hard. Yeah.
I see. Okay. I think that's all from me for now.
Okay.
If there is anything, I will maybe just
Okay.
text you for maybe additional information.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. I hope you
No
will get the
worries.
job that you want.
Oh, thank you.
And also, thriving on Instagram and social media platforms, because I really love seeing those.
Oh, thank you. And good luck with your project, with your assignment.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good day.
You too.